Hello, you're watching Weekly Economic Calendar by InstaForex Company. At the end of the week, market participants will concentrate on the interest rate decisions slated for release by the Bank of England and ECB. On Tuesday, the Reserve Bank of Australia already announced its decision. It left its key interest rate unchanged. This is exactly what the European regulators were expected to do. As for China, it's scheduled to release data on its CPI on Thursday. The index gained 4.1% in December 2011 as compared to the first winter month of 2010. According to the statistics, Chinese food prices got higher by 9.1% in December. Spending on tobacco and alcohol increased by 3.9%, and the housing price index equaled 2.1%. In relation to the November reading, the CPI in the Celestial Empire rose by 0.3%. For the whole 2011, the CPI increased by 5.4% in comparison with 2010. In January, the index is seen to gain 4% on a yearly basis. Furthermore, in January, the European Central Bank preserved its interest rate at the level of 1%. The decision not to make any changes to rate met the focus. Therefore, the ECB interest rate is still at the level set in May 2009 within the framework of the ECB program on easing the monetary policy in order to overcome the crisis. At their first meeting in 2012, the European monetary authorities did not further soften the policy. As analysts say, the ECB lacks an opportunity to do that. It is prompted to be as loyal as possible towards lenders under the conditions of bonds of troubled countries being kept on accounts of European banks, weakened population activity and scarce liquidity on the interbank market. Due to these conditions, experts focus no changes in the rate in February. Meanwhile, last week the U.S. Department of Labor informed that the seasonally adjusted number of unemployment claims for the week ending January 28th declined by 12,000 to 367,000, having exceeded the forecast of 373,000. The last week headline figure was revised from 379,000 to 377,000. Yet the number of initial jobless claims remained below the key mark of 400,000, historically associated with an improving labor market. The flash data for the period from January 21st to February 3rd is 390,000 unemployed citizens. It was Economic Calendar prepared for you by InstaForex TV team. See you next week.